Hey everybody, welcome to Critical Thoughts. I'm your host, Braxton Smith. Joining me today is Jake Bird, and today we're going to talk about the impending doom of the coronavirus, or rather indirectly, some of the implications that could be involved with it. Not necessarily on a biological level, but an economical level. One of my bigger concerns anyways with the virus, I'm sure plenty of people have heard all the statistics about it, is, and obviously the death rates have been varying on that. A lot of people are worried about how the virus may actually kill them, and I'm here to tell you that that's highly improbable. But what does concern me is what we're doing right now is measures to prevent that virus from spreading, namely the nearly half the Chinese population right now is quarantined. It's like 265 million people, I believe, are currently quarantined, and the numbers are growing on that as the virus continues to spread throughout China. And I can give you all the details on the virus, but that's not why I'm making this video with Jake. Jake's just here, by the way, to call me out on my crazy conspiracy theories I may be having about this, maybe reel me in a little bit on this. But one of my bigger concerns is that it's shutting down all your airports over there, all your shipping ports, all your factories are getting shut down. And guess what makes everything in the world? It's pretty much China. You look on anything you have in your house, pretty much everything's made in China. Maybe not in my house, but in a lot of other people's houses, I promise you. And already people are talking about trading disruptions that may come from that. So obviously I'm kind of concerned with the economy right now that's already on the brink of disaster. Like, we're in a bubble. Everybody knows it. We're in a bubble right now, and all it needs is one little incident like this blowing up into a big incident and knocking everything over and sending us into catastrophe. And Jake, so far I've left you in silence for, we're 2.5 minutes in here and I've left you in silence. So if there's anything you want to refute right out the gate here.
Well, Bryce, you're 100% correct. Everyone run, panic, hide.
Thank you.
But, I mean, I guess some of the checks on this is obviously, even though China may be the preferred provider of a lot of these trade goods and stuff, it's because they're the cheapest, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that there's no other countries out there with facilities and factories that are producing these things. It's just that is the cheap option. So we might have to move up a tier, right? In cost and hopefully quality.
Yeah, hopefully quality, FFS. But, even Apple's are already coming out right now. Apple and Amazon, several other big distributors of Chinese goods are coming out and talking about how there will be major disruptions in the supply lines.
Oh, yeah. I know at least with Apple, they've already talked about their estimations for the coming quarter have all been shot because of what's going on right now.
Yeah, and so, you see a lot of these disruptions, and like I said, right out the gate, that already evokes a lot of things we've seen before, like whenever you have the stock market collapse, like in the Great Depression, you see times of austerity, there's rationing of foods. Because anytime you have any interruption in the flow of the economy, life changes a little bit. But even then, that's not actually entirely what concerns me about all this. Getting into deeper levels, there's other things I've observed around the world that concern me that I just want you, again, there's only a few of you out there that watch us, so if you care enough to watch, I feel obligated to tell you about this, because I myself personally have prepared for this. I've bought a month's supply of food just in case. I think there might be a bit of a hiccup. Could be wrong, but the food supply was going to last me 25 years. It lasts for 25 years, right? So anytime between now, 2020, and 2045, I'll have a month's supply of food, an emergency situation, which, I mean, we see how things are increasingly becoming crazy in the world with everything that's going on. So, would it really be a big surprise if Mount, Pompeii exploded at this point? So, one of the other things that's concerning me right now is in Africa right now, there's a locust swarm of several hundred million locusts hitting Kenya, and they're touting it as like the worst plague they've had in over 70 years, and it's wiping out. They say the locusts have already overrun 172,000 acres right now in Kenya, and they're talking about how it's like wiping out a lot of the food they have over in Africa, period, which I'm sure it's no surprise Africa is already having a hard time feeding its people. And now you have this swarm of locusts coming in and wiping out all this food here, so they're having a tough time feeding their people. All their food's gone. Now they're going to have to rely on outside sources. They're going to have to start importing their food, right? And so that's the first thing that concerns me. Second thing that concerns me is I'm sure you've heard the epic fire in Australia right now that has burned over 1.5 million acres. There's a lot of crops out there. In fact, a lot of the meats I buy are actually sourced from Australia. So, you have cattle lands and crops that are being burned out right now, and pretty soon Australia, an entire continent, will be out of a way of feeding itself and will rely on imports. And moving on, we have the swine flu that is currently affecting China and Africa and is wiping out. They're saying this is as of August 15th of 2019, 20% of their swine have been wiped out by the swine flu. And it's increasing. It's not going down. So you have a lot of that market getting wiped out. And then again, you have the coronavirus hitting. There's a lot of things that are hitting right now. I feel like all these dominoes are being lined up. And we're in a situation right now where you have the breadbasket of the world, which is pretty much California, USA, feeding everybody. And how many fires have you seen over there? I think it's only a matter of time before you have like an earthquake or another epic fire that ends up sending the world into a state of famine. We already struggle to feed the world right now as it is. And now we're getting to a point, you got all these things lined up. I fear that, and believe me, I've been around for the swine flu. I was around for the avian flu. I was around for all this shit. 2012, Y2K. I never expressed concern for anything, but as I see things lining up now, I have this dire concern, as do a lot of other people. There's a lot of you out there, I'm sure, that see things the way things are lining up, and there could be a food shortage. And I just implore anybody out there, if you have the money, please invest into food storage. At least I have, okay? So I'm going to put that out there. You do what you will with it, but that's my 2 cents. And here's Jake with his rarely optimistic look on things and how I'm just totally out of control here.
Well, for one, I'll say I'm not for sure about a month's supply of food, but I think it's usually healthy for anyone to at least try to have some frozen and canned goods that could at least last for a few weeks. I know this is the modern age for some people, but I've been alive long enough to remember how Hurricane Opal affected Alabama, and that was like a solid week of no electricity. So,
yes, sir.
Just...
Hey, I was there for that too, Jake.
Yeah.
Remember?
Well, for those who may not have been that are listening to us, I was throwing that story out there, but and that's the thing. it's just like with economics, right? You're supposed to save and invest a little bit, a portion, usually around 10% of your income, to try to make a nest egg in case something comes along. And why would you not do that when it comes to food or, any other resource if you can do it? I would prioritize food and water, but, maybe you just got to have that stack of freshly minted porn mags or something. Oh no, this is 2020. Who buys porn mags anymore? But
guns and ammo, so you can go over and raid whoever might have saved up their food supply. Thanks, brah.
But, there's that Scandinavian in you.
If you must crush them, send them to Helheim.
Why take the goods? We can take the goods.
and of course send them to Helheim. So, no, but on a serious note, some of the videos I've been seeing over in China right now, they're putting their cities into quarantine over there right now, trying to shut this virus down, right? And they're sending these trucks out, and they're spraying all these chemicals. I don't know if anybody's been seeing this stuff, but you should definitely look into it. Zero Hedge has really been covering this stuff. And they're spraying all these chemicals, and now there's all these dead animals lying in the streets just from like where they're trying to kill the damn bug. And people played off, and I was even contesting them back in the day. People were telling me like, oh, it's just a flu, it's just like the flu. And I'm just like, really? Like quarantining 60 million people in Wuhan over a flu? And you see these videos playing out where there's people going into grocery stores and the shelves are barren. When you go into quarantine, you have to stay in your house and you have to live off the supplies you have. And for that, I encourage you again to, at the very least, have a week's supply. If you can afford it, a month, maybe even a year's supply. If it's at a year at that point, so many people are dead, shit's really hit the fan. You're looking at the road kind of scenario, but at least have a month's supply. I mean, a lot of people can afford that, and I think civilization will continue on beyond that. But yeah, Wuhan was wiped out, and that is why people right now, they've got a quarantine area set up, and there was a woman recently recorded where she rushed the line trying to escape because there's no food there. So she tried to escape, and the Chinese military were put there, and they said kill on sight anybody that tries to escape, because that one person is a carrier. And as you saw in South Korea, one woman contributed to the deaths of not the deaths, rather the afflictions of the coronavirus and 100 other people. She infected 100 other people. One woman, super infector of South Korea. Look it up. So they see this one woman coming towards the perimeter, and they're ordered to shoot her down, and they kill her. There are people in Wuhan right now, there are people being welded into their apartments, and like they weld the doors to seal them inside their rooms. And there's a woman who fell to her death because she was climbing out of her apartment trying to escape because she needed food. She tried to escape, she fell to her death. So you have all these crazy instances happening like that. And again, I could get into all the detail of the Wuhan virus. There's all sorts of really interesting things about it out there. I highly encourage you to look into it. I'm not going to waste your time with that right now. I'm imploring you. I think this is going to hit us hard. Oh, one other thing. Is there anything you want to throw in so far?
Well, I'm trying to debate on one side. I do believe there needs to be caution, but I guess I'll try to just tighten it down at the end. But I've got the official statistics up here right now, and the main thing people need to remember about this is, well, first of all,
it's only targeting Asians. Yeah, I get it. If you're not Asian, you're probably safe. Yeah, I get it.
No, I'm not even going on about that. You mentioned South Korea, they're currently at 602 right now, and that started from one woman. But the other thing is, the U.S.
USA.
Only 2 days ago, the official number was like around 15, and now we've over doubled over that course. And the other thing I want to point out is this chart right down here. See, you really cannot trust the numbers from China, because when you see this pattern right here, that should be the plateau, which means you're reaching peak infection, right? It comes up and it goes down. That's how exponential graphs work. But then all of a sudden it jumped over 20,000. That's not how infection works. That is a sign that they are suppressing numbers. And it's about a week ago, some of the scientists, when they saw this jump, went, hey, wait a minute, let's actually analyze this. And they took some of their models of what they would think the coronavirus would act like. And when they did the regression of the numbers, they got a correlation of 0.999%. Whenever you get a correlation between a model and reality of that accuracy and something that is not like basic physics 101 experiments, you know there's something fishy going on. There is no model designed by man right now in any field besides like basic gravitational law that's going to get you 0.999. You'll be best hoping for like maybe a 0.7. That is just how much knowledge we are lacking when it comes to these fields. And so that's the other thing. We can't even, I think what the incubation period they're saying right now is somewhere between 24 and 32 days.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It was originally 14 days, and then they realized that, it could be up to 30 days. It's scary how effective this virus is, which, now we're getting into details. It's turning out more and more likely to be a bioweapon. It hasn't completely 100% been confirmed, but it is, like Jake was talking about a second ago, 0.999%, confirmed. It's pretty fucking certain it is a bioweapon. One of the other big concerns about, and this is huge for me, is I was talking with my chief the other night, and he was talking about, like, we're worried about snow, right? Because we're over in Williamsburg, Virginia, doing dives and working on stuff, and we're concerned about the snow drop rate. And he's like, I got this app. It's called the Windy app, WINDY. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Let me check it out. And he's like, this is the latest snowfall rate. And I was like, oh man, that's cool. I heard they have a way to look up like chemical emissions coming from certain cities, like CO2. A lot of people are concerned about that. For what reason, I don't know. I guess they want to feed the trees. I don't know. But a lot of people look into that. I told him, I said, hey, do you have a way to look up, sulfur dioxide? Can you look into sulfur dioxide emission? He's like, yeah. It's like, he looks it up and he brings it up, and we start scrolling around. And he's like, look, New York City is like 80 units. I don't know what the units were exactly, but he's like, it's like 80 units, coming out of New York City. And he, I have him zoom out, and he's like looking around, and the biggest he could find was 100. And I'm like, all right, go over to China. He goes over to Wuhan. It is at like 500 units, which is like 5 times the highest we could find. And he's like, what the fuck is that all about? And I'm like, it's interesting because the city's in quarantine right now, right? So they aren't making anything right now. There's nobody really doing anything. If you look at videos, there's videos that are eerie. Wuhan is a city with millions of people living there. But if you look at videos right now, there is nobody in the streets. There's like literally 0 people It's insane. It's like going into New York City and there's nobody. Like you're walking around with a video camera and that you can't find another person. There's no cars moving. There are no people there. But there is the highest output of sulfur dioxide in the world. And he asked me, he's like, well, what the hell is that all about? And I'm like, well, you know what the output of whenever you cremate people, what it offputs, right? It's like sulfur dioxide. So, you start connecting the dots here, and it's like they're telling us 1,600 people are dead from coronavirus. You got to get rid of them somehow. Is it really 1,600 though? And then I find these pictures where they have Connex boxes with these furnaces installed in the Connex boxes. There's 40 of them. And that's where they cremate. What the Chinese officials will tell you is for small animals and for their medical gear. So, they're wearing the medical gear. You got to burn it. You can't just throw it in a trash can because it's biohazardous material is covered in the coronavirus. You got to burn it. But there's 40 of them. And if you're taking into account a 24-hour period, you're talking about 600 and something small animals or humans can be cremated per day via this. So, just connecting the dots over here. I think it's a lot worse than they're putting out there. Again, I think it's targeting Asians, being that we haven't really seen any other race really being heavily affected by it. It's like the Chinese are being totally wrecked by it. The Koreans, the Japanese, and then the Italians got their first death. But the Koreans are just getting wrecked by it. The Japanese are actually being at this rate the most heavily affected by it. I'm not really worried about any of the Europeans. I don't think it's going to affect any of them, but if you're Asian, Godspeed.
It was France and Japan's got their first death now too. Oh no, there is 3 in Italy. Okay, they did.
3 people died in Italy?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They did.
See, I looked this up 2 days ago, so I'm a little outdated. Jake's looking up right now. I saw 1 guy die the other day. I didn't know it was at 3 now.
Yeah, and so far there's supposed to be 155 confirmed cases. So. But, let's see, where should I? All right, let me try to do some more, little bit of reining in. On any of the sites that you look at for monitoring emissions, like SO2, the same area that's infected right now is also the highest concentrated area of power plants in China. And one of the things with China right now is they're not exactly eco-friendly. And not only do burning bodies produce SO2, but so does burning really dirty coal.
Oh, wow. All right. So Wuhan has the most power plants in the world?
Well, the most power plants for China, I'm wanting to, let's see, just in that area, I'm counting at least 15 dots for power plants.
Oh, wow. That's insane.
And it's pretty much the whole western or the whole eastern area of China around the Wuhan area is where they have power plants. So Wuhan, Shanghai, and a little bit north of it too. And that's also a lot of the areas where they're having these outbreaks. That's not saying that some of that shit isn't happening because it's fucking China, but it's...
You know what's insane? You know what's insane about it all? You have Wuhan, one of the most populous cities in China, and they're like, yeah, let's put one of those level 4 bioweapons labs right here. That'd be perfect. And then they have, for their logo, the Umbrella Corporation. I shit you not. Look it up. The bioweapons lab that's in Wuhan, for their logo, has the Umbrella Corporation logo, except instead of red for the colors, it's red and white. Instead of that, it's turquoise and white. That's like, like so many fucking red flags there, if you will. So,
well, maybe they're just trying to imitate the French Iron Cross, Brax. I mean, what do you know? Huh?
Pretty sure the French Iron Cross doesn't look like the Umbrella Corporation, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't study the French much. But anyways, those are my concerns. I don't want to drag this out too much longer. We're at 25 minutes, so you got any final thoughts here, Jake?
Be cautious. Don't really trust the numbers that they're throwing out here. I don't think the direct impact is going to affect the U.S. that much, and I'm not for sure about for the countries that already have a big impact. They're fucked. That's just it. I have no idea for the rest of us. Hope not.
Yeah, I hope not as well. But again, I've lived through several hurricanes, not just Opal. I've lived through, probably like 3 other hurricanes. Matthew, what was that other one that was like big? Anyway, it's not important. I've lived through several of those. Never really panicked. I mean, this is about the most preparing I ever did for any of those hurricanes. Hurricane parties, we call it over in the Florida, Georgia area. Y2K, swine flu, avian flu, all the end world scenarios, 2012, never been concerned with it, but I gotta tell you, like, this is the one time I gotta put up my red flags here. If you prepare for any other time, I would recommend now. I tell my family, I tell my friends, as far as I'm concerned, anybody watching this, you fall in that category. And I'm telling you, at least for God's sake, just get you some food supplies that'll last 25 years. It doesn't cost much. Get you a month's supply, at least like a week's supply, something. Prepare it in some sort of way. Do what you can. And Godspeed. I hope it all works out for you. I don't have anything else. So, that being said, that concludes this video. Thank you again for tapping into Critical Thoughts. Breaking through the white noise to bring you the media that matters.
Brax thinks we're going to die.